Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook wedged behind her spice rack. How'd they get there? Inside, a pressed maple leaf and scribbled dates. October 12th, 17 Juncos, 3 flickers. Pike Place pigeons plotting world domination. 58 years old, and she'd forgotten how lit it felt tracking those sassy urban birds. Outside, a lone warbler hit her window feeder. Coincidence? Nah. Seattle's concrete jungle hid migration secrets, and her grief over melting Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook, its cracked leather spine whispering of decades spent cataloging birds with her late husband. Now, retirement yawned before her like an empty feeder, and climate headlines gnawed her sleep. Ice caps melting, forests burning, a future slipping away like sand through clumsy fingers. But that morning, a flyer Pike Place market caught her eye. Urban Bird Migration Project. Track feathers, fight fear. She hesitated, knees creaking as she crouched to watch a sparrow hop across rain-damp pavement. What if she'd forgotten how to spot a warbler's flicker in underbrush? What if her data meant nothing? Fear coiled inside her, slick as spilled oil, whispering she was just another gray-haired woman counting days instead of wings. Yet Martha showed up. Armed with binoculars and a stubborn streak, she joined ragtag crew of baristas, teachers, and a retired ferry captain who met weekly beneath Market's neon clock. They traded tips over steaming chai, their laughter cutting through Seattle's drizzle. Her first entries were shaky, possible junco, maybe a finch. But with each scribble, notebook grew lighter in her hands, its pages stitching her back into world. By spring, she'd mapped a hummingbird's detour through a community garden, its route defying old predictions. Discovery lit her up like Market's sunset glow on copper pans. Here was proof. Life still adapted, still fought. Her data, tiny as a sparrow's heartbeat, became part of something vast, a chorus of ordinary people refusing to let despair have last word. Some nights, ghost of her husband's whistle echoed as she logged sightings, but now it mingled with trill of a thrush outside her window. Martha smiled. Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook, its pages brittle as autumn leaves. 58 years of grocery lists and half-finished crosswords filled its margins, but now it would serve a new purpose. Climate headlines had left her gut twisted like a knotted shoelace, but watching sparrows flit past her kitchen window sparked an idea. What if she tracked their comings and goings? Not just for fun, but to do something. Seattle's gray skies couldn't dampen her newfound mission. She loved binoculars to Cary Park, scribbling notes with fervor of a detective on a hot case. Her first entries were a mess. Brown bird, maybe a finch? But each misstep lit a fire under her. Pike Place Market, she collided with a woman clutching a clipboard, sending a latte skyward. Instead of apologies, stranger grinned. You're third person this week to sacrifice coffee for science. Turns out, Nora ran an urban bird migration project, and Martha's haphazard notes were exactly what they needed. Nora's crew, a ragtag bunch of retirees, baristas, and a postal worker who could mimic a barred owl, welcomed her like family. They met weekly under Market's neon clock, swapping stories over steaming chowder. Martha's notebook became a living thing, its pages crammed with wing patterns, weather quirks, and occasional doodle of a particularly sassy crow. One entry stood out. Today, a junco stayed put as construction roared nearby. Tough little thing. Like us? Age hadn't dulled her curiosity, it sharpened it. She learned to ID birds by ear, though her first attempt mistook a car alarm for a flicker's call. Group howled, but Nora high-fived her. Mistakes mean you're paying attention. By summer, their data helped map shifting migration routes, proving even small actions mattered. That notebook, once a relic of Aaron's, now held proof, not just of sparrows and warblers, but of a woman who refused to sit idle while world changed. Martha didn't just track birds. She found her flock. And damn if that wasn't lit. Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook, its spine cracked like pavement in July heat. 58 years of living, and she'd never felt so untethered, until that morning's news segment on vanishing songbirds lit a stubborn spark. Seattle's concrete jungle wasn't where scientists expected data, but her backyard had become an accidental pit stop for warblers dodging skyscrapers. If doom-scrolling climate reports left her hollow, maybe tracking feathery commuters could fill gap. She started small, scribbling dates, weather squiggles, a self-aware jab her own shaky sketches. Sparrow or disgruntled raisin. Pike Place Market's weekend meetups with fellow bird nerds, retired teachers, a barista with a falconry license, turned her scribbles into something bigger. Their cobbled-together migration map, pushpins clustering like starlings, revealed patterns even grad students missed. Urban birds weren't just surviving. They were rewriting routes, dodging glass with grit of subway rats. Doubts crept in when her eyesight blurred mid-count, mistaking a leaf for a flycatcher. Age wasn't just a number. It was stiff knees and fading light. But Martha dug deeper, swapping pride for a dollar store magnifier. She logged hours perched on park benches, ignoring stares from joggers. One rainy dawn, she spotted a tag towhee last seen in Portland. Her notebook entry that day smudged with something that wasn't rain. By spring, her data helped a university study on microhabitats. No grand accolades, just a footnote in a research paper, but it was enough. That battered notebook, once a relic, now held proof. Small stubborn acts could stitch purpose into fraying edges. Martha didn't save planet. She just showed up, pencil in hand, for creatures doing same. Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook, its pages stiff with disuse. Outside her Seattle apartment, spring rain pattered against glass, but her gaze stayed fixed on faded sketches of warblers from decades past. Climate headlines had gnawed her for months, ice caps shrinking, storms intensifying, until she curled inward like a leaf in frost. But today, something cracked open. She grabbed binoculars, marched to Pike Place Market, and planted herself beneath a dripping awning. Tourists jostled past, oblivious to dark-eyed junco hopping near her boots. With a shaky hand, she noted its movements in her notebook. One entry became 10, then 50. Weeks later, her scribbles revealed a pattern. Urban birds shifting migration routes as temperatures climbed. Armed with data and a fire she hadn't felt since her teaching days, Martha commandeered a community board, slapped up a hand-drawn flyer. Bird Nerds Unite, tracking climate's feathered messengers. Skeptics scoffed. One guy in a Seahawks cap muttered about old ladies and pigeons. She grinned, sharp as a crow's beak, and kept stacking notebooks on a folding table. Then came twist. A local journalist, dodging fish tossers market, snapped Martha mid-gesture, her notebook splayed like a treasure map, rain-spotted pages glowing under gray light. Photo went viral. Seattle Times called it aging like fine data. Emails flooded in. Scientists wanted her observations. Neighbors begged to join. By summer, she led workshops under market awnings, showing retirees and teens how to log sightings. Even Seahawks cap returned, sheepishly clutching a dollar store notepad. Martha's chest swelled as she watched him freeze, stunned, when a violet-green swallow darted past, a species he'd never noticed in 30 Seattle winters. Crowd erupted. Someone yelled, "Martha's lit." Laughter bubbled up as she fumbled her pen, sending it rolling between produce crates. Age hadn't dulled her, it had honed her. Each inked entry was a rebellion against despair, proof that small hands could hold up sky. Later, flipping through her notebook's dog-eared pages, she paused a fresh sketch, a junco, bold against smudged cityscapes. Her pencil hovered. I'm writing my own story now. And birds, Always birds were listening. Martha's fingers brushed dust off an old field notebook, its pages brittle with neglect. 58 years of life, half spent mourning glaciers she'd never see again, until urban sparrows rewrote her script. Seattle's concrete jungle became her lab, Pike Place Market her unlikely headquarters, where she rallied silver-haired recruits to track wing commuters with fervor of detectives on a caffeine bender. Her notebook, once a relic, now bulged with scribbled miracles. A violet-green swallow nesting in a Starbucks sign, Junko staging a rave in a parking garage. Mornings found her guiding newbies through binocular basics, chuckling as they fumbled lenses like toddlers with spaghetti. "Age just means more time to get it wrong gloriously," she'd say, flashing a grin that could power a lighthouse. Their collective data lit up migration maps like a punk rock Christmas tree, scientists fist-bumping their findings. Even city planners leaned in, tweaking green spaces to accommodate feathery tenants. By summer, her ragtag crew had morphed into a movement, stitching together grief and grit with every log sighting. Martha's odd habit of whispering thanks to each bird? Contagious. Her notebook's final page held no elegies, just a sketch of hands passing binoculars in an unbroken chain. Step outside. Your city's wilder than you think. Track it, tag it, change game.